Well, you can't teach somebody how to be an assistant engineer. They have to want to be an assistant engineer. And then you can teach them. So, so first of all, you need them to show up. They've got to be inquisitive. They've got to have attention to detail. As far as I'm concerned, they got to be able to work fast. They've got to be know when to speak. They've got to have a radar that equals the engineers or even exceeds it. They've got to have roving eyes. They've got to be able to look at people's faces and monitor the musicians and the engineer and the producer in terms of their needs, and being able to be discreet when the engineer is unaware of doing something, and be able to let them know that. They've got to be diplomatic. They've got to stay in the room. There's nothing to do. They got to be there and understand that that's the role. The hours, well, you know, sometimes in the old days the hours would be long. I think in general people are working more reasonable hours, but it can oftentimes trip into that. So they've got to have stamina, but also take care of themselves, know when to take care of their ears, and know when to take a break, and know when to say, you know, if the assistant is responsible for in some way I don't want to say the documentation because there is no documentation anymore, responsible for the kind of the bandwidth and headspace around the session, if it gets beyond them, they've got to know that they got to tell the engineer, well, you know, hold on, I need to take a minute here, and because at some point the engineer is going to turn to that assistant and go, so where is that thing? And if they don't know, that's bad. So, and it's a learning process. I think the easy stuff on the front end is the maintenance stuff. It's kind of the setup, tear down, the really bulletproof set of the Pro Tools, get the I/O right, get the mic cables, the patching. All that stuff is, as challenging as it is the easy part. I think the subtleties are the hard one. But I think that one of the reasons that I would compel students to work fast is that A, it helps them ultimately be able to control the flow of a session, but it also helps them identify their weak areas. It moves the things that they know and do well out of their consciousness, because what I find when they work slow is that they're really thinking about everything they touch. It takes up a lot of headspace. And if really what they want to do is be able to hear, they need to clear their mind. So, so at the point that, you know, that mechanical facility becomes easier, the world opens up, because now they're not thinking about all those little things, and they really can hear, and they really can pay attention to the dialogue and the dynamic of the relationships and the communication, and that's where the assisting really starts to come into fore. But it also becomes a dangerous time, because now they have the technical capability and totally understand the dynamics of what's happening in the control room from the production and engineering and artistic standpoint, and now they're still the assistant standing behind the engineer, so boredom sets in, and that's the killer. So in a case like that, I put out the challenge, learn something new every day. You can learn something new every day, you look for it. You think you know everything, well, you got to look for, what am I going to learn new today? And it keeps your attention span, your observational characteristics up, and it keeps you in the session, because that's really where you want to be, because again, when somebody turns to you and asks you that question, you need to be able to answer.